I don't even know where to begin. Maybe with the moment I realized I wasn't really my parents' favorite child. Or maybe with the truth that I was never even in the running. From as early as I can remember, my little sister Anna was the shining star of our family. She was 2 years younger than me, and even though I was the firstborn, it always felt like I was living in her shadow. When I brought home drawings from kindergarten, my mom would smile politely, pat my head, and then quickly turn to Anna's messy stick figures and gush, "Wow, Anna, you're so talented." I'd stand there, clutching my picture, trying to understand why hers was so special when it looked just like mine, or worse. I grew up craving that same look of pride. Just once, I wanted to see my mom's eyes light up for me the way they did for Anna. Birthdays were the worst. I still remember my 7th birthday party. I was so excited, I had been counting down the days for weeks. When the day finally came, I woke up to no balloons, no decorations, just a store-bought cake my dad brought home at the last minute. And even then, my parents spent half the day telling me to stop being so dramatic and be grateful. But 2 months later, when Anna turned 5, it was like the whole world stopped for her. The house was covered in pink balloons, a clown came to entertain her friends, and she even got a shiny little bicycle with tassels on the handles. I remember standing in the corner of the living room, watching her unwrap presents after present, wondering why I didn't deserve the same love. As I got older, I told myself maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe I was too sensitive, maybe I was overthinking things. But the pattern never changed. When I got good grades, my dad would shrug and say, "Well, that's expected. You're the older one. You should be responsible." When Anna barely passed her exams, they'd throw her a celebration dinner just for trying her best. I swallowed my feelings year after year, trying not to let the bitterness eat me alive. I told myself that if I just worked harder, achieved more, maybe one day my parents would see me, really see me. But I was wrong. And I didn't know then that the small cracks in my heart would eventually split wide open, leading to the night I walked out of that house forever. Because what happened years later, on Anna's big birthday, shattered me in a way I can never forget. But before I get there, you need to understand just how deep this favoritism ran. By the time I was a teenager, I had already learned my place in the family. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who was expected to take care of things without making a fuss. And Anna, she was the princess, the golden child, the one everyone praised even when she did nothing at all. High school should have been my chance to shine. I worked hard, I stayed up late studying, I joined clubs, I tried to make them proud. And in some ways, I succeeded. I'll never forget the day I won first place at the regional science fair. I was nervous, but I thought maybe, just maybe, this was finally my moment. When I walked on stage to collect my trophy, I scanned the crowd for my parents. They were there, sitting in the middle row. My mom clapped politely. My dad gave me a stiff nod. I felt a lump in my throat because it wasn't the reaction I'd dreamed of. On the drive home, I waited for them to say something, anything. After a long silence, my mom sighed and said, "Well, don't get too full of yourself. It's just a school fair." My dad added, "You should focus on helping your sister with her grades instead of wasting so much time on experiments." I stared out the window, holding back tears, the trophy heavy in my lap. That night, Anna came bouncing into my room, giggling. "Mom says I'm prettier than you, even if you're smarter, so I'll probably do better in life." She said it so casually, like it was a fact, not even realizing how deep her words cut. There were other moments too, moments that burned themselves into my memory. Like the time I saved up money from tutoring kids in the neighborhood to buy myself a simple dress for the school dance. I walked downstairs feeling a tiny spark of confidence, only for my mom to frown and say, "That color doesn't suit you. You should let Anna wear it. She'll look better in it." And they made me give it to her. I sat at home in my pajamas that night, scrolling through pictures of my classmates laughing at the dance, while Anna twirled in the dress I had bought with my own money. Sometimes I would lie in bed and ask myself why I even existed in that house. Why was I always the afterthought, the shadow, the backup plan? I thought the pain would dull with time, but it didn't. Each insult, each dismissal, each little humiliation stacked on top of the last until I was carrying this heavy, invisible weight around with me. And then came the day that broke me completely, the day that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it. Anna's big birthday, the BMW with the red bow. That was the moment I realized my parents didn't just prefer Anna, they didn't care about me at all. But I'll never forget how it all unfolded and how that single moment pushed me to walk away from them forever. Anna's 21st birthday was like a royal coronation. At least, that's how it felt to me. For weeks, I watched my parents buzz around the house with excitement. My mom was glued to her phone making calls about catering, decorations, and some special surprise. My dad kept slipping out of the house, coming back with secretive smiles and receipts he tucked away in drawers. Nobody told me anything, of course. I wasn't part of the planning committee. I was just there, an extra body in the house. "Don't worry about it," my mom said one afternoon when I asked if she needed help. "You wouldn't understand. Just focus on your work." Her words stung more than she knew. On the night before the party, I sat in my room listening to the muffled laughter downstairs. My parents and Anna were going over final details, her voice bubbling with excitement. I couldn't help but wonder what it would have been like to feel wanted like that, to be the reason for all the laughter and planning. When the big day finally arrived, the house was transformed. Balloons covered the living room, tables were lined with expensive food, and relatives I hadn't seen in years showed up, all smiles and compliments. "Look at Anna, all grown up. She's so beautiful, so accomplished." I hovered on the sidelines, plastering on a polite smile, feeling smaller and smaller with every passing second. Then came the gifts. Everyone crowded around as Anna sat on a decorated chair opening box after box. Jewelry, designer clothes, envelopes stuffed with cash. My parents beamed with pride as though every present was proof of her worth. I shifted uncomfortably, waiting for my turn, because somewhere in my foolish heart, I thought maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. Maybe they had remembered me too. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "Anna," he said loudly, drawing everyone's attention, "we have one last gift for you. Something very special." The front door swung open, and there it was. A brand new BMW. Gleaming under the porch lights, a massive red bow tied across the hood. Gasps filled the room, followed by cheers and applause. Anna squealed, leaping to her feet, tears streaming down her face as she hugged my parents. Cameras flashed as relatives rushed outside to admire the car. And me? I just stood frozen in the corner, my hands trembling. When the excitement died down a little,
My mom turned to me almost as an afterthought and said, "Oh, and here." She pulled a single-dollar bill from her purse and pressed it in my hand with a laugh. The room erupted in chuckles. Even Anna giggled as she jingled the BMW keys. I stared down at the dollar in my palm, my throat burning, my chest hollow. And I knew what I had to do.
Because this wasn't just about favoritism anymore, it was about survival. What happened at 2 a.m. changed my life forever. I don't think I slept a single second that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the party in my mind like a cruel movie stuck on repeat. Anna's laughter, the flash of the cameras, my parents' proud smiles as they handed her the keys, and then me, standing there with a crumpled dollar bill in my hand, the punchline of their little joke. I turned the bill over and over between my fingers. At first, I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just their twisted sense of humor. But the longer I stared at it, the more it sunk in. This wasn't a joke. It was a message. I wasn't valued. I wasn't wanted. I was worth $1 to them. Around 1 a.m., I sat up in bed, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. My mind was racing, and for the first time in my life, something inside me snapped. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep begging for scraps of affection, couldn't keep shrinking myself down just to survive in a house that never saw me. So at 2 a.m., I quietly got out of bed and started packing. I shoved clothes into a bag with shaking hands, grabbed my old laptop, a few bucks, and the little savings I had hidden away from tutoring. Every creak of the floorboards made me flinch, terrified someone would wake up and stop me. When I stepped into the hallway, the silence was suffocating. I passed by Anna's room, the door slightly open, her new car keys glinting on the nightstand. For a moment, I froze, staring at them. I thought about taking them, about driving away in the BMW if only to make a point. But then I shook my head. No, I didn't want their car. I didn't want their money. I just wanted freedom. By the time I reached the front door, my hands were trembling. So badly, I almost dropped the keys to the house. I opened the door slowly, the cool night air hitting my face like a wave of clarity. I stepped outside, the grass damp with dew under my shoes, and for the first time in years, I felt alive. Before leaving, I pulled out my phone. My parents had texted me pictures from the party earlier, all smiles and captions about their perfect daughter. Perfect daughter. Not daughters. Just her. My throat tightened, but I didn't hesitate. I blocked them, one by one. My mom, my dad, even Anna. And then I walked into the night, my bag heavy on my shoulder, not knowing where I was going, but knowing I would never look back. What I didn't realize was that leaving would only be the beginning. Because sometimes the real betrayals don't reveal themselves until you're already gone. The night I walked out of that house, I didn't have a plan. I just kept walking, block after block, the weight of my bag digging into my shoulder, the weight of years of pain pressing down on me. I ended up at the bus station, sitting on a cold metal bench under flickering lights, clutching my bag like it was the only thing keeping me together. I had about $300 saved up from tutoring and odd jobs. Not much, but it was mine. Unlike that single-dollar bill my parents had tossed at me like a joke, this money carried my effort, my sweat, my worth. I bought the cheapest bus ticket I could find, to a city 2 hours away. When the bus pulled out of the station, I pressed my forehead against the window and watched the streets of my hometown blur into darkness. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was free. But freedom came with its own price. The first few weeks were brutal. I rented a tiny room in a rundown apartment with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. I ate instant noodles every night, stretched every dollar, and worked 2 part-time jobs just to cover rent. Sometimes I lay awake wondering if I'd made a mistake. But every time doubt crept in, I thought of the BMW, the red bow, the laughter, and the dollar bill in my palm. That memory was enough to keep me going. I thought leaving would mean peace. I thought cutting ties would end the pain. But instead, it opened my eyes to truths I had never dared to see before. Because a few months after I left, I ran into my aunt at the grocery store. She nearly dropped her basket when she saw me. "Sweetheart, where have you been? Your parents told everyone you disappeared." I forced a smile. "I've been fine, just figuring things out." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Listen, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but do you know your parents set up a trust fund for Anna years ago? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. They've been building it up since she was a child. But for you, they didn't put aside a cent." My heart dropped. I had always suspected the favoritism was real, but hearing it out loud, confirmed, was like being punched in the stomach. I nodded, pretending to be strong, but inside I was breaking all over again. And as if that wasn't enough, a few days later, I got a message from an old friend back home. "You won't believe what Anna's been saying about you," the message read. Apparently, while I was struggling to survive, Anna was telling everyone that I had run away because I was jealous of her success. She laughed about the BMW, bragged about how she was the chosen one, and mocked me for being too weak to handle life. It was one thing to be ignored by my parents, but realizing my own sister took pleasure in my pain, that betrayal cut deeper than anything else. I sat there, staring at the message, my hands shaking. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. That was when I realized the truth. Leaving hadn't freed me from them. Not yet. Because the wounds they left behind were still bleeding. And the worst part, they weren't done with me. Because soon, they would come looking. I thought leaving them behind would be the final chapter of my story. I thought blocking their numbers, cutting off contact, and building a life on my own would be enough to heal the years of pain. I was wrong. It started with a text from an unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity, or maybe the old aching hope for some shred of love, made me open it. "Sayara, it's your father. Please call me. It's important." My stomach sunk. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. Not yet. Not to him. A week later, my mom tried. Another text. More desperate this time. "We need to talk. It's about Anna." Anna? I didn't care about her. Not anymore. Not after everything she had said about me, after the BMW, after the dollar, after all the humiliation. Still, my mind wouldn't stop racing. Why now? Why suddenly after months of silence? And then came the call.